Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope everybody's having a good morning. This video is strictly a demonstration on showing you how to practically perform an NDB approach. Now, this approach is the NDB Alpha approach into Key West, Florida. This is off of the Fishhook NDB, Foxtrot India Sierra. And the first thing we're going to look at when we look at this approach plate is the frequency. What frequency do we need to utilize for this NDB? And that would be 332. And we already put that into the nav frequency section on our radio panel. I'm going to pull up the stem here in a minute. It's paused right now because I'm about to actually start the procedure in the stem. Approach course is 071 degrees. We need to keep in mind that that is offset 24 degrees from our actual runway heading, which is 095 degrees. So we need to keep that in mind. It's offset. So a couple things like touchdown zone isn't going to be listed because, or threshold crossing height, for example. It's not going to take us right over the runway, right? We're going to need to be looking for that runway once we cross that NDB. So we notice we're at 4,000 feet right now in the sim. Doesn't matter what altitude we're at, but we need to be at 1,500 before we actually start that procedure turn. So once we've crossed the NDB like we have in the sim, we're starting a nice easy descent to 1,500. Remember, that's MSL. We're expecting to be within 5 nautical miles of the NDB when performing the procedure turn because we're category A. If we were category B, C, or D, we could range anywhere from 10 to 15 miles. But because we're a small Cessna, we only need 5. So 5 miles out from the NDB, we're going to start our procedure turn, outbound turn of 296 degrees for 1 minute on the timer, and then a return course of 116 degrees for 1 minute. I've returned the ADF to show a 116 degree heading, so to trick the airplane into thinking that's the direction. And the NDB will actually transmit the signal and let us know as soon as we're getting close to this inbound course, so we can actually start the turn and fly inbound to the station. Now, our minimums are 500-foot ceiling and 1 statute mile visibility. Visibility right now in Key West is 1.7 statute miles with a ceiling of 3,000 feet. Winds are light, so favorable wind, favorable weather conditions mainly. So good IFR, no problem, be fine. No reason why we shouldn't be able to see the runway when we execute this approach. Now, one thing I am going to point out, the VOR that I'm using is 113.5. That's your Key West VOR. And the reason I'm using that for the DME is because the NDB does not have DME. Therefore, we need to utilize the actual DME in the flight simulator based on this VOR frequency. And because this VOR lays about 2.5 miles to the north of the NDB, I'm going to use 7 miles as my beginning point to start the procedure turn on my nav panel. I'm not going to use 5 because I need to compensate the difference between the two. The only one that's giving me DME information, remember, is the VOR. So once all that's briefed like we have, we'll go ahead and jump into the cockpit and we will begin this approach. So like I said, I've already crossed the NDB, and as we can see, it did a complete course reversal on us. So now I'm heading 251 degrees, and I need to start a nice easy descent to 1,500 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And we're looking for about 6.8 to 7 miles DME in order to actually begin this procedure turn. And I'm going to go ahead and get the clock ready to start the time, because once we get there, we're going to need to start the time. Okay. So I've got my HSI already set up to 116 degrees. That's our course reversal. Actually, while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and set it up to 296. 296 is right there, tail end of the course reversal, and then I've got our ADF set to 116 degrees. And that's because when we fly back inbound for our procedure turn, we're going to need to know how to intercept the final approach course. So as I'm descending here, I'm going to lower my speed. I'm a little fast, kind of turbulent. We're coming down, and we are coming up on 4.8 DME, so that means we need about 2.2 or 2.3 more before we actually begin this procedure. So there's 3,000 feet. I'm 1,500 feet from where I want to be. All the frequencies are tuned and everything. I'm not using air traffic control, so I don't need any radio or anything like that. This is all just based on my judgment. So we're coming out here. We're almost there. We got about 1 more mile to go or so, 1.2, 1.3 miles or so, before we'll start that outbound course. Got about 1,000 feet to go. 6.5, looking at another half mile, and we'll begin that turn. We'll actually begin that turn at about 6.8 or 6.9. So 6.8, I'm going to go ahead and start that turn to the right to 296 degree outbound. And once my wings are level, I'm going to start the time. .500 feet to go. So this is my 296 degree heading. I'm going to go ahead and start the time for 1 minute. And we're going to go ahead and arm this so that we level off at 1,500 feet. Got about 20 seconds to go, and we're going to go ahead and turn to the reciprocal heading of 116 degrees. There we go. Go ahead and start that turn. And we'll start the time again once we're inbound. We're a little fast, but smooth air, not too big of a deal. We'll slowly just slow us down just a little bit so we're more accurate with our missed approach point. So here we are. We're going to be turning back inbound for our procedure turn to finish up, and then we will begin a turn direct to the VOR, or correction, direct to the NDB. And that will be our final approach course. So now the wings are level. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. About halfway through, still at 1,500. Our actual heading is bugged on the ADF. So that we know we're probably going to want to fly a 071 degree heading to the station. Now that may change. We'll just see how it looks once we get closer to actually beginning our turn. Looks like it's going to be about a 070 heading exactly to the station. We're going to begin that turn now. There's our 1 minute mark. Go ahead and turn to join the ADF. Okay. I'm going to track a little bit to the right. I'm kind of going in just a little bit. So now we're on our final approach segment. So now I'm going to start a nice easy descent down to 900 feet. I'll at the same time configure the aircraft for our final approach segment. Everything's checked, just getting everything ready. And we are tracking it down to the NDB. We get the timer ready now. And we're looking for 48 seconds. And we're tracking to the NDB nicely. The frequencies are set. Everything looks good. remember there's minimal wind correction now. We have almost a direct tailwind at 9 knots. So we don't really have much of a wind correction angle to worry about. Everything's kind of perfect for this scenario. We're going to level off at 900 feet and remain at 900 feet until we see the runway. That's our decision altitude. And 100 to go. And we're tracking nicely. Almost to the NBD. There's 900 feet. So now we're leveled off. So now once we cross the NBD, we're going to make sure that we start that time for 48 seconds. Ground speed is 90. And we'll be looking out for that runway. Speed's configured, everything's checked. Landing check was complete. Tracking inbound nicely. We're fairly close with 4.6 miles to the VOR, which means we are probably, based on my estimates, we are most likely about, I'd say, 3.4 to 4 miles from the VOR. I'd say about 3.5 miles from the VOR now, or correction from the NBD. It's about 0.7 miles off, offset. Sorry, I'm mumbling to myself. Okay, we're getting pretty close to the NBD. The needle is going to start to move here shortly. And we're going to start that time once we cross over it. So once it does a full deflection, we're going to begin with the timer. So we're getting pretty close here. It's going to start to switch on us here any moment as we get closer. Okay, we're about to cross it. Needle's going to start to move. Correct my heading just a little bit. We want to be at 071. Needle's going to start to rotate soon. Okay, we'll start the time. Looking for 48 seconds. And we're looking for that runway. And there it is. So I didn't use flaps or do anything like that. I just wanted to kind of show you guys some of the basic demonstrations on how to successfully fly this approach. Now, obviously, I'm fast. I'm not going to land, but you guys get the idea. Just wanted you to get an idea of what it looks like,
500,
how you'd use it, what you'd be looking for, stuff like that. So hope you guys had a great day or a great time watching this video. Peace.